My name is Melissa, which means honeybee. It comes from Greek mythology, which describes Melissa as a nymph who rescued baby Zeus in the forest and kept him alive by feeding him honey. Welcome to this sequel in the Gnosis series, Part 3, Sex, War, and Florn, where we look at some sexy eggs in this After Dark edition, which you may want to know in advance if children are around. We are in a great and personal war. Like many of you, we are also patriots and veterans, and we have fought for many decades for humanity and our country, while fighting to stay alive in a hostile environment. This is an ongoing battle that has been going on for thousands of years and more, and it has come time to reveal our true nature. So accept these eggs as our symbols, which were created by using Brian David Prater's over-unity formula to achieve maximum systems efficiency. To the left is the Sephiroth, and to the right is the Star of David on a mosaic ball of inlaid mother of pearl. These symbols, created from Prater's formula, are often recognizable in many religions and indigenous cultures. These examples of the Star of David use Celtic knots, flowers, and crystals to show the six-sided expansions, and on the left, the image shows the unfolding process of triangular patterns. For this presentation, I pulled these images out from the archives to the right of some of my handcrafted artwork from long ago, called the Rosy Cross, which I made as a gift to my husband. Notice that the symbol for the Rosy Cross also inverts the colors separately into quadrants, with the fifth dimensional element of the rose coming from the point of intersection. For this presentation, my husband suggested metal, so I incorporated them to the right for your enjoyment. Many fairy tales have been written about our generations, and nowadays we're writing a new chapter together as we continue our fight for humanity. As you may know from part 1 of this series, Gnosis, Flaming Easter Eggs from Hell, the scientists, engineers, and inventors among the open source community often put the information about their technology into the public sphere in order to preserve it rather than watch it get pigeonholed away from the people and public access. What often happens in many cases is that some college, such as MIT, thereafter replicate the inventions and claim it as their own. This happens continually whether we want it to or not, and whether we tell anyone or not. In fact, just a few months from the time Cavetronics R&D Energy announced the concept for WhoHub humanitarian software in 2012, in less than 5 months, DARPA asked for volunteers to start work on a similar project, but without all the benefits to humanity like the wealth redistribution system. Have you ever cracked an egg with two yolks? That's the nature of this atmosphere we're living in a bullion world, as I spoke of before in the last video, Gnosis Part 2, From Darkness to the Light. Yet, as I hope to explain through these videos, over-unity pierces through such two-dimensional realms, creating a triune. It is the third element that the darkness has sought to hide, but it cannot be ignored any longer. As I have mentioned before about intersectionality, the things that matter in society have been mixed up, disordered, so to speak, such as what is science itself these days? It seemed like we once knew what that meant. But let's refresh the cosmos on this 23rd of March, in the new spring when things start to bloom and be reborn anew. To begin this sensitive subject, we start with reproductive systems, concentrating on the visual representations of cell divisions wherein the egg multiplies as the universal spinner moves through it. This creates a tunneling action, as seen on the left, that some of you may be familiar with concerning the works by scientist Brian David Prater on his innovations for magnetics tunneling junctions, using magnetic tunneling diodes as part of what he refers to as spintronics. Let's go deep, as we must, because we were running out of time to save humanity. So we must break through barriers fast and furious. Therefore, consider this as an inoculation, because the time has run out to wait for individuals to catch up one by one. So this is a condensed message meant to save humanity from itself. We were born for such a time as this, to evolve, to move on from the old ways into a new and better future. But I know many of you are weakened by the world in all its confusing tactics. It is difficult to find the time to sort out what is truth when we can barely hear ourselves think among such noise, much of which is inflicted on us without us even knowing it. And although the darkness seeks to overcome the light, it cannot. The truth is that the light burns from within. Everything in the Kabbalah has many meanings. The rabbis teach learning Torah is like peeling the layers of an onion. And in the New Testament, Hebrews 4:12, it says, "The word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit, joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart." In the last example, the double-edged sword cuts both ways, while Christ is the unifying force, which is good to keep in mind as we dissect the movement of energy through the shape of an egg. As you can see on the left, the piercing action from the left to right through an egg creates quadrants, which is explained in more detail on a previous video, Architectural Over Unity Artistic Concepts. And to the right, the cube describes the effects of over unity. On the left, the artwork shows another view of the egg's division into quadrants, revealing the fifth element or fifth dimension, which is the white egg inside in the middle of it all as seen here. And on the right, the artwork is flattened to show the fifth dimensional aspect as one of the outside rays, which then reveals a sixth dimensional realm in the center. Notice the color inversions in over unity art, such as the pink and purple outer bands on the right-hand metal image, which describes the flow of energy using color. Next, we see another effect from this process, that is inversion, where a dimension opens inside out, causing multiplication. Cell division, or in the case of this presentation, reproduction. On the right, you can clearly see the movement of energy along the vertical axis of the egg shape, as well as the energetic expansions that it creates, which propagate waves throughout the cosmos from the action. Like throwing a pebble in a lake, the ripples keep traveling. 3 in 1 and 3 from 1. Welcome to independent thought. Welcome to three-dimensional reality. It seems so silly to say such things, but in this Boolean world we need to be reminded from time to time. Duck! Oh, not yet. It's not time to duck just yet. We're getting to that part of this presentation, but this obviously isn't it. Instead, this is just a sneak peek at an upcoming sequel to In, Out, Over, and Around the Pond. And to the left, we have an interesting point of view of the action inside the egg, showing an egg popped out of another, with two more eggs on the top and bottom, with a squishy middle where a lot of the abstracted action occurs. Now let's get serious. All is fair in love and war. And in this world, love seems like war, and people love to war. That's inverted. There is a flip side to everything, which over unity reveals. The separation of light from darkness has been relegated in society as mysticism and occult. Both good and bad parties hide the wisdom of the hidden light for various reasons. Some wanted to protect it, and others wanted to destroy it. To take a big aim in the right direction at society today and their woke controversies, let's see what the prophet Jeremiah wrote in chapter 30, verses 4 through 6. These are the words the Lord spoke concerning Israel and Judah. This is what the Lord says. Cries of fear are heard, terror, no peace. Ask and see. Can a man bear children? Then why do I see every strong man with his hands on his stomach like a woman in labor, every face turned deathly pale? Now take a deep breath and make sure the kids aren't around. You are about to see some matured content, some of which has already been made available in previous videos available on YouTube at Hoo Hub Humanitarian Software 208. When creating Cavetronics dimensional art using Prater's formula through flowers, some things were hard not to see, like these orchids which are quite showy. If these images to the left offend you, please keep your eyes to the right as we pass through this phase of abstractedness. Oh my, is that Mother Nature bent over and knotted up? Surely this will awaken the fairies. After these type of images kept coming in, my husband and I nicknamed them Florn. Are those extensions of the universe, or are the water lilies growing breasts? You decide. And to the right, a lovely pure white and gold metal thingamajig that looks kind of like jewelry. To the left, we see space-time lattice openings. Our human body mimics universal characteristics, such as we have two arms that work together, two legs move the body, but one head controls them both. They are a trio, with the left and right working together. Is that what I think it is? How did that get in there? Something smells fishy about this slide. This image on the right, for those who cannot view the other side without disdain, is an image that is also seen in the video for Ocean Beach 7D digital art. And on the left, the image inside the egg looks like the female's body's reproductive opening. I am exposing the female first due to society's slant towards naked women and the hypocritic shock at the naked male. Although I personally wish for people to keep their clothes on while in public, the female form has been so degenerated that these images are more readily acceptable in society. From inside the egg, we see the outline of penetration to the left, and to the right, a colorful metal gyroscopic-like object. Male and female he created them. From Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, God made mankind, splitting the human bodies into two genders, male and female, and he told them to go forth and multiply. Hold that thought and remember that as these images were created using a scientific formula in the shape of an egg. That's it. So remember that as things become clearer. The size of the screen matters because the image on the left was also in another video I uploaded as part of an Easter basket, and I didn't realize what it looked like and what it really was until I saw it on my TV screen after it was uploaded to YouTube. But unlike Disney, I did not put those in there as subliminal messages into the artwork. Rather, Over Unity formula does unique things to whatever it is applied to. And in this case of the shape of an egg, Over unity produced the shape of a male appendage penetrating the shape of a vulva. Coming at you from the flip side, through the transparent egg we see the head, and on the right the cube shows the inversions of its dynamic energy form. This is very naughty. Another view of penetration through a crystal egg. You may need a breather after those. In engineering, when things in life get hard, we crunch on metal, like the cube on the right. Cold metal. That's how we plod along most days, with our noses to the grind in this grinder of a world. We do it for love, our love for humanity. It is not just some overused quip or quote. It is not just some notion or dream. It is hard work. It is our cross. If you have been following Lily's adventures through 7D, then you may be familiar with the quantum concept of popping in and popping out. And in the image to the left, the egg shape inverts like the opening of thighs. This is the real money shot. Like I mentioned in another video titled 7D Photonic Art, Nature, Easter Eggs, and Mandalas, with discussion on society, AI poetry, and light art, orchids take on a life of their own, so to speak, and they do seem to have a lot to say here on the left. Notice the heart shape in the lower portion of the orchid where the piercing action occurs. This presentation may be difficult for some, like chewing on metal, or trying to read the Law of War manual, or like a woman in birth. As you can see, there is a punch-through action and then a pinch. This is not just in sex. This is not even sexual art. This is how overunity works. If these images have offended you, then the next image really packs a punch. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart, the Lord said to prophet Jeremiah in chapter 1, verses 4 through 5. From the image on the left, it does appear to be more happening inside the womb than what we may have realized. That's a double punch. Choose the right egg, because the left egg looks immature and it needs to develop and age a bit. In a balanced system, things make sense and things match up appropriately. Would you like your eggs metal over unity? These are a couple of my favorites, and on the right, I made a series of these turquoise with iron pyrite over unity pieces, and this one had an egg to appear naturally from the formula in the center. The orbits on the right is a good visual description of why intersectionality is very important. You see the orbital structures and the holes, like the big one in the middle of the lopsided over unity metal Star of David. The holes could be considered the points of intersectionality where everything meets and moves into another dimension, so to speak. Does that mean we will be teleported or simply changed by the information which is translated to us through light packets? Most people could not imagine how many angles we had to cover and obstacles we overcome to get to this point of convergence. And if we can all come together and point our swords in the correct direction, we can pierce the veil and evolve. Like on the top left, the veil is thinning and light is piercing through. We are at the intersection of realities, facing our own reflections. In hindsight, we see both society's flaws as well as the virtues that have carried us this far in our human development collectively. Individually, however, we may be in different phases of orbit, so some may see their reflection as hindsight, and others may use this abstracted world for foresight and communication. On a very down-to-earth logical level, humanity is undergoing change. Our collective energy directs that flow of change, just like the trio within the human body, the parts being the right side, the left side, and the head. We can jump humanity ahead with a quantum leap of new technology to put us collectively on a path to sustainability. Yet from what I hear in the conservative camp is that many would rather go back to the old ways, fire up the oil rigs, the maximum capacity, forget about the damage done, strike up the music, and get back to work like before, which could just put us into a similar orbit from where we just came. So a loop back would be a revolution of the same cycle rather than an evolution into a new cycle, which is where we are going. But the outcome could change depending on whether or not we work together to make the quantum leap required. So in the meantime, we need to get the country running in the right direction by whatever means necessary. Additionally, even free energy, which is more like extra energy, requires a kickstart to get operational. So without adequate replacement products at this time, we cannot simply shut down, which creates one hell of a clog in the system, and we need to pull the plug. Here's the terrible news to the deep state. Although you believe to have all the information by hook or crook, free energy scientists are rare in the extreme. How many of them do you have on payroll that can get a device looped and unplugged? Silence is golden. To forgive is divine, which is what we need to do to move forward, and we all need energy to do that. To support this work, you can purchase digital art from Cavetronics Art on Etsy, which has a link available in our YouTube banner as shown here. Please also like, share, and subscribe to this channel to help our algorithms on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.